I will call this meeting to order. We will start with consent agenda. All the following items which concern reports and items that are routinely normally approved at AHA meetings will be approved by one vote unless any trustee desires to have a separate vote on any or all of these items. The consent agenda consists of the discussion, consideration, and action on the following items. Minutes of the special trustee meeting, January 31st, 2022. Minutes of the special finance meeting on February 23rd, 2022. And a check report, January 9th, 2022 through March 8th of 2022.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through C as printed.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Brown, a second by Dr. Simon to approve the consent agenda as it was presented. Roll call vote, please.
Gasper.
Yes.
Hannaford.
Yes.
Burt.
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
Simon. Yes. Grant.
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
All right. Next is the CEO's report. Candace.
All right, well, what a day. It's been a busy day. So we've hired a couple of new staff. Happy to welcome back Veronica Durkee. She's back as our environmental services supervisor. Jane Bowles is a nurse for us who has recently, in the last few days, accepted the discharge planner role. So she will be working on moving into that role. She will continue working as a nurse, so we didn't lose her off of the floor, so we're happy about that. Lori Stansberry Loudon was our discharge planner, and she's had some health issues and had to take a leave of absence. So hopefully she will be able to come back at some point when she gets those issues taken care of. As you will remember, Karsten Group is taking care of our HR needs at this point, and they have also, this was their first payroll to run, and that seemed to go well. They've got a lot going on right now. They've audited all of our employee files and are trying to fill the deficiencies that have occurred with those. Some employee files are missing, some needed items. We're getting ready for surveys, so that's why everybody's hair's standing on end. D&B will conduct their annual survey by virtually on the week of April the 4th. So we're trying to get all those documents rounded up and sent to them because they will preview those prior to 2 or 3 days prior to the survey. So we're trying to get all that stuff gathered up and to them. IT's world, I'm sure if you've been paying attention to the news, you can imagine what's going on with IT right now. They've been very busy trying to keep up with all the intel and threats with everything going on with Russia. So far so good. You can see those reports that Mark has included. Has added, I believe, nursing home is now doing the No Before training, which is a bit of a learning curve for everybody not to click on things they shouldn't be clicking on, but now's a great time to bring them on board to make sure that they're getting that training that they need. CrowdStrike is software that's running all the time to try to mitigate anything that does get through, and we haven't had any issues, knock on wood, so far. We have received our proposal regarding moving to Expanse. If you'll remember, that's the Meditech, the newest version of Meditech, and we are currently looking at what we need to, maybe some different options, routes we could go with funding that. And so we're kind of, I don't know, Jason, are you going to talk more about that? Okay, I'm going to let Jason talk more about that. But hopefully we'll be able to do something with that in the near future. Surgery, another big project's going on with surgery. We're continuing talks with the company InReach out of Steamboat, and we're hoping that, let me find that date, April the 20th is what we're hoping. If you guys could pencil that in on your calendars, we'll try to have 2 or 3 different times on that day to have all of our providers and board members attend that meeting to listen to that program, what that program could do to benefit our revenue, and give you opportunities to ask all sorts of questions, because it is a big endeavor, and we think it's an opportunity to generate some big revenue. So it's important. If there's any way that you could swing that in your day on April 20th, if that day works out for everybody, I would highly encourage you to be here for that meeting.
And we kind of need to space it out so that we can't have any more, as far as board members go, any more than 3 of us. So I know Jay and I both said that we could be fairly flexible. So we're thinking like she said, maybe a 10-ish in the morning, maybe a noonish, and maybe a 2 in the afternoon. But probably all the physicians would be coming at noon, just because that's their break anyway.
I check mine in right now. If you figure out which one, I'm good that day.
Okay. Kayla, would you rather do noon or 3, or what would work for
How
you?
long is it?
Probably an hour at least, probably an hour and a half.
Can I get to school tomorrow and check my calendar? And just see okay.
Yeah.
So what's on the school calendar.
So we could do that last meeting, push that to 3 if that would work for you, or if the noon works good, just let me know.
Okay.
All right?
We talked about having 3 meetings.
3
that
separate
day.
meetings.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to, just so you could attend more, sure.
You guys?
I can fit almost anything. So.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm good
Great.
with time.
okay,
Usually.
okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Jay, did you lose your seat at the table?
I tried to tell him to come right here.
I tried to get him much here.
That's okay.
I'm good over here.
Okay. All right.
Sitting in the cheap seats.
I think your daughter-in-law actually took your chair down
So
there.
third,
Doesn't surprise me.
one of the other projects that I'd like to take a look at, we've not, now, bear with me, we've not looked at, we're just visiting about this, taking staff surveys to see what level of interest there would be, but talking about trying to do a daycare for the employees' kids. And so there seems to be quite a bit of interest. So that's something we talked to BKD about, see what that looks like. But you can, as far as I understand it, you can use that as an employee benefit. And it would really be helpful for Kelly.
Would that cover all 3 locations? Okay.
Yeah. Something to the effect of, like I said, we haven't talked a ton about it. Kelly and I both have been pretty busy, but it's something that we want to try to work through together on. The house on the corner where Steve's currently living, if you remember, we went in and we did flooring and paint and got that all, and we were thinking daycare at that time, and it just happened that Steve called me and said, hey, I want to come back, perfect opportunity, we got a house here, you can live in it until you find something. So that's kind of where we've been. He let me know last week that he is about, was it a month or 2? Couple months from moving into his house. So we'll start those discussions and investigating what it would take to open up a daycare. And if anybody has any knowledge of doing that, I would love for you to give me a call, because I don't know where to go with that for sure, but we'll figure it out. I think it'd be great for the staff. Well, I won't completely go into that. We'll talk about that another day. Upfront collections. Working on that, working on our revenue cycle, another big project that we are currently working on with BKD and with TrueBridge. Funny thing, so we are about to engage BKD. That's one of the things Jason's going to talk about. I'll let him talk about that a little more. Or do you want me to?
Doesn't matter.
So BKD is helping us take a look at our revenue cycle. As you know, we've had issues with our billing, and we thought TrueBridge was the answer, and not so much. And that's been a struggle all along. So in discussion, decided let's engage BKD. They work with hospitals. They know vendors that have good success getting through these types of projects. So that's going well. We do have a proposal that we will be bringing to you to sign off on. And I'll be getting you some information out about that this week. But it'll pay for itself pretty quickly, we think. With all of that said, the TrueBridge seems to be that they work your big accounts and just leave the little ones to time out on their own. And so that's why people aren't getting statements. And we're working with BKD and a company called HRG. HRG was the company that BKD had chosen for us to work with through this process and potentially switch over to. We were quite frankly ready to get out from under TrueBridge. And literally an hour and a half before our call to meet HRG, the leaders of HRG, Dan Clark at BKD got a phone call, and HRG had been bought by TrueBridge's company. So that was a bit of a shocker. But after the initial shock wore off, we realized that this could be a good thing. If you think about doing, basically, this would have been another conversion. You know, contracts would have had to have been approved and signed, and eventually, if we were moving our business over to HRG, that would have taken a long time. With HRG being bought by CPSI, TrueBridge, it kind of cuts to the chase a lot quicker. We have been told that we can have a leadership team from HRG that will be working our account, and so we're hopeful. I mean, honestly, I was telling people that day, I'm like, wow, God sold the company for me. He really cut to the chase on this one. And, I mean, it's really the best you could hope for if that's who you were going to end up with. I mean, what are the odds? I said we should go buy lottery tickets today. So we're hopeful that this gets us where we need to be. And then we'll talk about.
Well, and being you just brought all that up, what I was going to talk about, I'll just tag onto the back. So we have done revenue cycles before where we have somebody come in and kind of go through our business and make sure that we're doing our very best and finding holes that we might have and other low-hanging fruit that maybe we could capture. But we haven't done one of those since we went critical access. So the last one done was by BKD in 2018. So that is needed, whether we have these other issues or not. We needed to do a revenue cycle to begin with. The other thing that they will be able to come in and do, and this is what this contract would be for, is for them to come put boots on the ground, go through our processes, and then also look at TrueBridge's processes and find out what's not happening. Because based on where we were the last time that we had a revenue cycle to where we are now, we're actually worse off. So something is not working. I mean, it's not just our perception of TrueBridge. Something is not working. And so we need them to come in and help find those holes. We've told TrueBridge what we think it is. TrueBridge tells us what they think is. We kind of get this third party in there and that can give us a completely different perspective. And so that's one of the things that they will be doing. and then helping us come up with the processes to fix those holes as well. So we don't have, today we did a meeting with them on Zoom, thank you. I was going to say on the line, but
On there.
on there.
Interweb.
Yeah, on the interweb.
Mine in?
Yes, Jimmy?
Anyways, and we kind of felt like this is what we needed to do, but, so we asked them to put together a contract that we as a board could review and go from there. So that'll be something that will be coming. It may take a special meeting, noon meeting, and as soon as we have some of that information, we'll try to get that out so that you, others that aren't on the finance committee could view that as well. But I think it's very much needed because our revenues have went up over the last 4 years, but that doesn't necessarily mean that our bottom line has went up over that time. So we need some other eyes to check into that as well.
Jason had a good idea today. I will be emailing you. I was just looking over my list of things to make sure that I've covered everything. But I'll be emailing all of you a kind of an update of the projects and things that we're working on, just to try to keep you in the loop as things go and as things develop. What other things? So we're looking at surgery, we're looking at an infusion, outpatient infusion clinic, pain management are some of the other things that we're working on. Expanse. Did I talk to you? Maybe I didn't. I thought we talked last time about Dr. Rader has accepted a new role within SSM, and he will no longer be our hospitalist. It will be Dr. Jared. Will be the lead on that, and that's been going for a few weeks now and seems to be going well. And we do appreciate everything Dr. Rader has done for that program. I was trying to think how many years we've actually had that. I know it's been at least 6.
It'll be 7, and
Okay.
it'll be, if it's not 7, it'll be 7, because I remember it was right when I got elected.
Okay. So close to 7 years now, we've had that telehospitals program, and it has went amazingly well. We get along great with it. And the fun thing that's happened, especially through COVID, is our nurses' skills have, they take care of a higher level of patients, and Dr. Rader has been the reason for that, trusting our staff to take care of them and leading them down that path, and we're forever grateful. They do a great job, and we're really going to miss him. Dr. Rader's he's been good for us.
Or sound,
Sound.
is he sound?
That is
hospitalist group.
sound, yeah, that is sound physicians. Yeah. Clark, is he wanting Shawnee to be the chief medical officer? Yeah. To be the chief medical officer at Shawnee. That's what he's going to do. I think that might be just about it. Okay, so I said you're Shawnee. I think it's Shawnee, but I'm not really sure. Yeah. All right. I think that's all I've got. You guys have any questions for me? No?
I was making a motion.
Oh, well, you can make a motion now. This is Clark Hauser. I failed to introduce him as when we first started. I don't know if you guys talked about him before I came in, but Clark, did you?
I didn't know you were
This is reason that you actually say, who are you?
I can tell you this whole history.
I talked to everybody when I got here, yeah.
Good. Awesome. You can probably tell more than I know. Okay, wonderful. Well,
I don't know.
You don't know. Clark Hauser, he's the CEO at O'Keene Hospital, which is just down the road, about an hour.
Not close enough to be in competition.
Yeah.
Well, I work at SSM, it bridges our team in rural health, and so to ensure the SSM representation on board for the affiliates, we're gonna rotate through to make sure there's always an on-site presence. So I have a conflict every other month because of the Okeen board, so Bridget will come in my place, but I should be able to be here.
Hold up, do you just have board meetings every other month?
I got a lot more meetings.
Okay, but you're a keen board meeting, you just
I
said?
do that.
Okay,
That's mine.
okay, gotcha,
I do the speaking parts at mine.
gotcha, okay.
Just wait for you to pull my flag and I'll go to my speech for SSM. So I'm just speaking on SSM's behalf today. That's just
Gotcha. Okay. Well, welcome. We're glad you're here.
happy to be here. Weather's amazing up
Just wait, it'll be different when you walk out.
here. I came across this quick story, and I was driving about 60 miles an hour, and the rain was going sideways across my windshield. It wasn't going up, it was going across. And I just thought, it's kind of weird. Crossing at the north, there's nothing to block it. So,
Nope.
yeah.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the Share Medical Center written report for March 22nd, 2022.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Simon, a second by Dr. Hannaford to approve the Share Medical Center written report for March 22nd, 2022. Roll call vote, please.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes.
Randalls,
Yes.
Simon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Casper.
Yes. Okay, Candace, thank you. Next is the CFO's report. Chris?
Okay, we got a few months in here. It's been a little bit. I'm just gonna talk about February though. If there's any questions about any prior months, we can talk about it, but going through 3 months could take some time, so I'm just gonna hit on our most recent month. And kind of piggybacking off what Candace talked about with BKD and this revenue cycle assessment, we've already kind of gotten a little bit of a scope of what that might look like. And we have these numbers on these reports every time, and I don't know if I have ever really explained any of them. So when we look at these unbilled and billed days, one of the issues that we know about is, unbilled is 17.3. Well, that should typically hover around 6. So clearly we're not in line with where we should be. Billed days is 100. That should at least be cut in half. And those are the issues that are kind of causing the problem. So if you just want to look at the unbilled days and you figure our revenue is $50,000 a day, and we're at least 10 days, then you're $500,000 that we should have collected at this point that we haven't. And then same with the bill days. We're at 100. Drop that to 50. You can kind of see what's going on there. So that's a big problem. That's something that when BKD, we get this contract signed and they come on, and that's kind of one of the first steps that they're going to look at to try to remedy that problem and figure out where are these kinks in the line that are keeping these days up so high when they should be so much lower. So I just want to go through that just to make sure you guys understand. I know you see these numbers, but if you don't know what they mean, then it really doesn't help you. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking for when we look at those unbilled and billed days. Our AR, is still pretty high. It's gone down the last few months, so that's at least somewhat of a positive. This month we did have net income. A lot of that was based on, on page 2, you see our other operating revenue, $407,000. We did get some ARP money and some COVID money. That is what you're seeing right there. Part of what you're seeing right there when it came in. You can see that the inpatient revenue was a little bit higher than January, which kind of goes in line with our patient days, 122 in February, 98 in January. Outpatients where we kind of took the bigger hit. As far as the clinic office visits go, you're looking at 1393 for February, and in January we had 2124. So, 800 fewer visits. Plus, if I remember right, we had fewer ER visits as well. So that's kind of why that outpatient took such a big dip. Outside of that, our contractuals in February were better. Our operating expenses were better. So all that with the other revenue is kind of why we saw that net income in February. So we're kind of hoping that that's what we'll see. Hopefully our contractuals can stay where they're at, keep our expenses down, so that we don't, because if you look at January, you can see January was a pretty rough month with that net loss. So we're trying to get back from that. We also have our cost report, which was about $580,000 from FY21 that should be coming in the next 2 weeks. So that'll help. And then we're also in the process of doing a 6-month interim cost report. So whenever we get that back, I can let you know what that looks like for those 6 months. We typically only have a 12-month and an 8-month cost report review. This year we'll have a 12-month, a 6-month, and an 8-month. They've kind of fallen behind, so they've asked for 6-month due in a couple weeks, and then we'll do an 8-month. So possibly some more money coming in from those cost reports, but whenever we get those back, I can let you know more on that. You guys have any questions on the hospital side? And I'll try and put some more things together in the future, like I said, to try to compare numbers and also benchmarks of where we should be, so that some of this makes a little bit more sense rather than just looking at the same numbers every month. At least give you an idea of where we should be at compared to where we're at now. Anybody have anything? Okay. Flip back to the nursing home. Into their numbers. Nursing home revenue for February was down. It's interesting, Kelly and I were talking, their revenue was down, so they do show that the net loss for the month. However, they did collect on quite a few accounts. They had $132,000, a decrease in their AR, so they were collecting on their AR. And also, how our contractions with the hospital work, we put in charge somebody $100, and Blue Cross will pay $50, so we lose $50. That's part of the contractual. With Kelly, he kind of somehow has the opposite problem, where he bills people for $100 and he gets $150. So I don't know how he's handling that, but we're going to work through that with Compass, figure out if we just need to update something in their system. It's a good problem to have, but it just makes the contractuals look a little strange. When you see those negatives for Medicare, negative $49,000 for Medicare contractual, it just doesn't look, every month has had that negative, so it just looks strange. So we'll get that cleaned up. So like I said, gross revenue down, 70,000 decrease from January. They had 1,044 days compared to 1,115, so kind of same problem. You're down in your days, so obviously you're expecting your revenue to be down also. Salaries kind of stayed pretty even, $5,000 increase from the prior month. Same with the operating expenses, $4,000 increase, so kind of staying in line on other expenses, keeping a hand on their expenses like they typically do. So, any questions there? Okay, well, go to the Homestead. Homestead's numbers, January and February, were fairly almost identical, with their inpatient revenue within $100, $200. Meal revenue dropped a few thousand. So the net patient revenue is looking good. They had a net income for the past 2 months. They had a loss in December, but picked back up in January and February. Operating expenses, $45,000 January, $47,000 in February. So December for everybody looked a little bit strange, you're catching up for the end of the year. But it seems like when they get back into January or February, their regular routine, they've done a good job. I mean, like I said, their months are almost identical. So if they can keep that going, then they'll do all right. So don't have anything else for them. Okay.
Any other questions for Chris? If not, Chris, thank you. item is the Chief of Staff, Dr. Burke.
So, Medical Staff Executive Committee met on March the 9th. Members present were myself, Dr. Christopher, Quinn Holderby, Brian Letter, Jennifer Nichols, and 2 physicians on Zoom, Dr. Self and Dr. Evans. I can't remember, do we have to have a motion on minutes?
No.
Okay. Part of that meeting was the Medical Staff Credentialing Committee. And so we need to go through those appointments and reappointments, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The first is an appointment to allied staff, and it was Karen Sagner, who is a nurse practitioner who moved from Oregon, correct? And she's working at the Winoka Clinic on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Correct.
She's been there 3 weeks, going on 3 weeks,
Actually about a month now.
almost a month.
Yep, almost a month. Because I think she started the 22nd, seems like.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to appoint to allied staff Karen Sagner, nurse practitioner.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Hannaford, a second by Dr. Simon, to appoint to allied staff Karen Sagner, ARNP. Roll call vote, please.
Bert,
Yes.
Randalls,
Yes.
Simon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Hannaford.
Yes.
And we have a reappointment to allied staff for Steve Madrid. I don't think we need a whole lot more discussion on that.
I make a motion that we reappoint allied staff Stephen Good, PA.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Brown, a second by Dr. Simon, to reappoint to allied staff Steve Madrid, PA. Roll call vote, please.
Randalls,
Yes.
Simon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes. And an appointment to courtesy staff, Roger Mason is a gentleman that lives in Arkansas, I believe, and he would like to be a fill-in for our emergency room,
Works local.
works locums. Has he been here before?
He's been here a couple times. We haven't had him for a while.
It's been quite a long
Yeah,
time.
but it's always good to have 1 or 2 of those on so that if you have somebody that's out sick or vacation, you can have that locums fill in because you've already got them credentialed. You've got them credentialed with your payers, so at least you're going to get paid, so.
And this is an appointment, and I think when he worked here before, he was just
Temporary.
temporary. Okay.
Make a motion to appoint courtesy staff Roger Mason, MD.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Brown, a second by Dr. Simon, to appoint to courtesy staff Roger Mason, MD. Roll call vote, please.
Simon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes.
Randalls.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Next, this is not a, we have coffee. We don't have coffee.
We do have a coffee report, and I do have just a little update on coffee. That was also one of Lori's responsibilities, and in true share fashion, we added that hat to somebody else. And Coco Burton has agreed to take that on, and she's doing a great job. Coco really has a knack for quality and for SQSS. So she is helping the rest of our staff get their things in order for survey. They've been cleaning up and making sure that everything's in order. So I'm very thankful for Coco. She's doing a great job. I don't have anything else that sticks out like a sore thumb that we need to talk about.
Okay. Under the improvement to patient care tab, you will find there were 5 contract reviews. Those were all in good order. So the next item is the discussion action on the 2022 hospital risk assessment.
Again, one of those survey things, quality things that we have to do. It's been updated for 2022. Is that the infection control?
Yep.
I move that we approve the 2022 hospital risk assessment.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Brown, a second by Dr. Hannaford to approve the 2022 hospital risk assessment. Roll call vote, please.
Brown,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Hanford,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes.
Randalls,
Yes.
Simon.
Yes.
Okay, the next item is discussion and action for the revisions report dated February 28, 2022.
And those are any policies or procedures that, new policies or revised policy and procedures that go into SQSS.
And so there was no substantial changes. Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the revision report dated February 28, 2022.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Hannaford, a second by Dr. Simon to approve the revisions report dated February 28, 2022. Roll call vote, please.
Bowman,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Hanford,
Yes.
Bert, Randalls,
Yes.
Simon,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Okay. Next item is the Sheriff Convalescent Home report. Kelvin?
I won't go through the reports. There's 3 months of reports for each nursing home and the homestead, but I'll kind of give you some highlights of what's going on. Candace mentioned that we were doing lots of know before training, and we have recently, or in the month of March and February, went from having about 7 people on with emails to about 70 people with emails at the nursing home. And so some of our staff have, technology's not their first strong suit. We're having some growing pains, but largely I think things are going all right. The move to the email was with a contract with SQSS for the nursing home, and I can't believe we didn't do that years ago. It's already, I think it's proving to be well worth the investment. As an administrator, I can clearly look and see who's taking care of their assignments and doing what they need to be doing, and the little bit of growing pains that we're having with email and technology are well worth it, in my opinion, and I think we're going to really be able to impress our surveyors when they come to see us, and not only that, we're going to be able to take care of some things that need taken care of. So I'm really excited about what that's going to do for us.
I will add just real quickly, something that we've not talked about, something new coming up with SQSS is they will be tying employee performance appraisals to their SQSS dashboards. So it will be very easy when it comes to that point, if we have to terminate an employee, you'll be able to show cause that they were not taking care of business because of the red on their SQSS, so that's going to be nice for managers.
We're already using it for that purpose, not with annual appraisals, but we offer a discretionary shift incentive for nursing department staff that work extra shifts, and part of your eligibility is that you have to work extra shifts, but you also have to be compliant with all of the other things we've asked you to do. We don't just want a warm body, we want you doing all the stuff that you've been.
So to get it, they have to be green.
Mhm.
Good.
So we're that will have some budget implications, and I hope it doesn't. But we'll probably see some cost savings in the short term, but I think in the long term, they'll pick up and they'll want to get that extra pay and they'll do what it takes to get it. So that's where we're at there. Speaking of nursing staffing, we've been, I'll kind of go over a couple things here, and Chris, I won't be too long. We've really made some improvements in staffing, and we've talked about those in the board meeting, in previous months. Where we sit right now, within a 65-mile radius of Alva, comparable size nursing homes, there's 18 homes that we would call our, market. In our market, we have the third best RN staffing. We have the highest LPN staffing. We have 13th in nurse aide staffing. But overall, when you put all of our staff all together, we have the fourth best total staffing in our nursing department. And that's not translating, it hasn't been translating into improvements in our quality measures. And so we are trying to, we've really focused in the last 2-3 weeks on driving home, those factors that improve our quality. The main thing that I think we're going to do moving forward is I think while it's not a bad thing to have the fourth best overall staffing, but I think we're out of kilter if we've got, first place in LPNs and 13th place in nurse aides. So we're going to be working probably to have fewer nurses on staff and more nurse aides. And reason being, those nurse aides are the ones that are answering the call lights and feeding at meals and all of those things, and have our nurses focus more on nursing. Originally, we felt like higher qualified staff on the schedule would equate to better outcomes, and for the type of care that we provide, we need more people, and so we can have 2 nurse aides for the price of 1 LPN. So in April, we're going to have a scheduling shift, so we'll have more nurse aides on the schedule and fewer nurses. We'll still have essentially the same coverage that's gotten us to our 4-star staffing rating, but it'll be a different composition of staff that I hope is going to get us some better outcomes. We continue, I'm going to tout our activities department. They continue to month after month after month have really high marks with resident satisfaction, and they were again at 100% resident satisfaction for the last month. And so they came into a situation where we really didn't have an established activity program, and turned it into something that the residents, it's the highest ranked part of our program in our resident satisfaction. So proud of them. We have more changes regarding COVID, mostly in just language. So we haven't had a COVID policy to you yet, and we will have a COVID policy for you to approve. But our regulations the language continues to change in. The latest change is that now we don't use the term unvaccinated, we use the terminology not fully vaccinated. And so we are going to get a COVID policy for you guys to approve. It's a real pain in the neck to have to, I don't want to put a policy in place that we're going to change every time we turn around, but that may be inevitable. So maybe we can find some creative language that we don't have to say things that should just make sense. So anyway, I will get that policy before you guys. And kind of along the lines of the CMS changes, the president kind of called out nursing homes in his State of the Union, and kind of unfairly, we as an industry have seen quality improvement across the boards, and while there may be some outlier homes out there that haven't done a good job and have made the news, and really made the news during COVID, by and large, nursing home quality has improved across the board nationwide. And so our professional organization has been working with the White House staff to make sure they don't do anything radical with their maybe their misinformed view on things. But one thing that was brought up was the transition away from semi-private rooms into private rooms totally in nursing home settings. And so we are licensed for 80 beds. We've been carrying a census of about 35 to 40. If we went 100% private rooms, that might not be a bad thing for us. We're going to start looking at numbers though and see what that means for our nursing home if we were to go 100% private rooms instead of having shared rooms and roommates. So even though it may not have been the intent behind the president stating that, I think it might be a good thing for us from a competitive standpoint if all we have is private rooms. So
Does that affect Medicaid?
no, I mean it'll just mean that the differential or the contractual for Medicaid will probably go up. We'll still get paid the same amount for Medicaid whether it's private room or semi-private. And then the last thing that I wanted to share with you is that we did have Plico. Plico is our liability insurance carrier. They were on site today and spent the morning with me. We had quite a few things that she went over with us to make sure that we weren't a great risk. She went over some things also that would be comparable to what the state surveyors would go over if they were on site. And I'll be waiting for her official report, but I feel like things went very well. The last time we had a state survey for just a routine survey was August of 2019, and she used that as the basis for what she was doing with us today. And essentially a lot of the things that were issues back then are no longer issues, and so we still have some things we need to improve, but overall I thought the visit today went very well. She, not being a regulatory regulator, she was able to come in and give us some feedback that we can come, after she sends us her report, we can make these changes, and they might save us some deficiencies in the future. So.
Was that Leanne?
No, it wasn't Leanne, it was Jean. She said Leanne does over here, but she does it
Okay.
at nursing homes. So, I think that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Kelly in regards to the convalescent home? If not, Kelly, Homestead?
Homestead, probably, I've spent more time at the Homestead over the last 6 weeks or so. I don't know if it's cabin fever in the winter, but there have been, more residents needing a little bit more attention over there here recently, and so I've spent more time over there, both one-on-one and in their group activity type things, just to get a feel for how things are going. And I think, I think they're ready for not just. What made a really big difference was when the mask policy was rescinded for Homestead. It made a huge difference, and then I think we've also had some residents who were having some trouble with aging and that have moved on to a more appropriate level of care, and I think that's made some just an overall change in morale over there for the residents. Staffing-wise, we did hire someone from the hospital, and she's working out great in her new environment. So I always like it whenever we can find someone that may not fit in where we hire them, but we've got a spot for them. And so that's going well. We are seeking a housekeeper for the homestead and help in the kitchen. And regarding the kitchen, we have kind of done a shift in, not a change, but a shift in how we are leading that department. Prior to last month, we had Karen Campbell as the supervisor over both kitchens, with Tamara Martin as her assistant that helped out in both kitchens. And while we still have Karen as the supervisor over both kitchens and Karen as the assistant, their day-to-day work has been split, where Karen is 100% at the nursing home and Tamara is 100% at the homestead. And I think it's going to give us quite a bit more consistency in leadership for that department, to not have to, that staff won't have to wonder who they report to at this point, and they won't have to report to two people, they'll have to report to one. And so we think that's going to make it easier to retain staff on both campuses, to better clarify the leadership in those departments. So other than that, I don't know if Greg might say something on this as well, but we did submit our budget request for the Alva Utility Authority of the City of Alva for the capital needs at the homestead that are within their purview as part of the management services agreement. And that would be for painting the exterior of the building, hot water heater, and the parking lot. There's a parking lot issue kind of caving in on the northeast corner. So, we're not using it. And I think, and that the management services agreement for the homestead is coming up this September. So I think the council is wanting to negotiate some changes to that. So I'll help put materials together for this board, and we'll go from there.
Okay, any questions for Kelly? If not, Kelly, thank you. Foundation?
I don't have a report.
Okay. Next would be the St. Anthony's report.
It's me.
Yes, and welcome again.
Yes, thank you. So recap, I'm Clark Hauser. I work at the O'Keefe Hospital and at SSM with Bridget Cosby. You'll see me here more often as we kind of increase our attendance at the board meeting. So thank you for the meal was really good. That was a good salad. So, but thanks for having me. I just want to cover a couple of things. You know, Candace and I attend a monthly affiliate meeting down at St. Anthony's, and so she's heard some of the talking points I wanted to address. But if you don't know, the operating model at SSM is separated into pillars, so kind of categorized a little bit by pillars. First off is growth at SSM. In the news, if you haven't seen it yet, but they've acquired the Seminole Hospital as part of an arrangement. They're taking over from, I think it was Alliance Health or another group out there. But the SSM footprint is expanding further east. That'll operate under the Shawnee Hospital license later on this year once it fully closes. So we're getting another facility added to the fold. From another growth perspective, the SSM is recruiting a general surgeon to be a sort of a regional surgeon, to almost a per diem style, fair market value for a traveling surgeon to increase case volumes at certain sites that opt in for this. And I assume the facilities will pay a daily rate for that surgeon to perform cases into their procedure rooms or ORs or whatever the capability is. And so SSM is taking a stand there, providing some of the resources we've not had before. On a people pillar, they've brought in a senior director of human resources. Her name is Amy Hayes. She's going to come in as a resource for the network affiliate to have some assistance with some of the workforce, human capital element, policy procedures, onboarding, things like that. Right now there's a new hospital that's being built on 35 South Oklahoma City, and so her first duties will be to really get that thing up and running, operational with some of those issues they've got. But she actually reports through HR with a dotted line to the rural health department. So you may see her name, or she may attend a meeting or two just to bring in some senior level perspective to human resources as a resource for you. Also, at the last affiliate meeting, we talked about having a regional supply chain person that could help us with the supply chain issues we're having, either My comments were the units are always messed up. You always don't need 100, you need 10. But since St. Anthony switched GPOs, group purchasing organizations, to Vizient, we've seen some of those units that we order, the supplies we get have changed. And so we're working with some of those. So that could be a finance and a people perspective there of getting somebody in who can help us manage some of those expenses, keep some of those costs down by buying things that are on deal or rebates. And then also they did have Vizient come to our last meeting and did a breakout session. They gave us a presentation, and she probably quit, but they came on site, they gave us a presentation, and they broke out with some buyers and materials managers that attended that. They did a breakout session to talk about some of their situations they're seeing with their preferred distributors, and then some of the solicitations they received from other distributors who are trying to get into our network with either pricing or units or rebates, things like that. We will go through at the next affiliate meeting a de-escalation training to work with some of those situations from a high level for us. And then from a finance perspective, one is the GPO is available to you if you don't have it set up already. We did have someone from St. Louis come into our affiliate meeting and talk high level sourcing. And so those emails and those conversations are continuing. So if you're not on those, let me know, let Candace know, let whoever knows you can get involved in those to help with some of those expenses. And then I'm working on personally an IT cybersecurity MSP, to mean acronyms, a platform for SSM, the affiliates. Historically, we've kind of done whatever we feel is necessary and appropriate, but we do use mainly the same insurance company. The landscape for insuring cyber claims and cyber liability is changing. There's fewer companies willing to write policies, and not having the right infrastructure could put you at risk of it not having one of your claims paid if you experience a breach or an attack of some sort. There are some discounts with premiums if you have certain levels of coverage. Obviously, you don't have the ability to have the gold standard, like the Ferrari, the G-Wagons of the IT security world, but I do feel we need to come up with an SSM standard infrastructure that would allow some security, and probably write that policy in accordance with the insurance providers so that we can get that discount and obviously have some increased security, but actually manage that from a higher level rather than being on your own. Some of the meetings I've had with other administrators have been terrifying. With some of it, just kind of whatever their local person recommended is what they have. The loss of passwords, handing out of passwords, things like that. And so I'm looking at some of that for the management and the tier 1 affiliates. You can obviously use your own service if you want to. Obviously, I think geographically it makes sense to have on-site coverage, somebody regionally close by you that you trust, but maybe having some of those higher level decisions sort of being handed down and cascaded to the local MSP to support. Some of that comes with a cost. There are some providers I've noticed that are extremely high, and others are extremely affordable. In my conversations with 4 different groups, everybody tells me whatever I want to hear, but I think from a cost perspective, we can look at maybe standardizing at least or consolidating groups into a review of that, just to ensure that we're all paying an appropriate amount and we don't have any wastage from a cybersecurity and the hardware and software ongoing program. So that's underway that I'm leading. That's all I really hear, I think. Anything from you? I'm really excited about the IT stuff, but so everybody's got their own ball of yarn, so I don't want to go unwinding anything, just kind of want to make some recommendations and work with your team. So.
Yeah, I think we did talk last time about, so Anita, that she runs our materials management. She'll retire in the next 2 to 3 years, and so we want to keep that conversation going. I've reached out to Bridget to say, hey, that's a great opportunity for us to save some money in materials management when you have a knowledgeable person sourcing your supplies. I just think that now's a great time for us to be looking in the future to what we're going to do to manage our supply chain, and hopefully we can work together. I've also reached out to a couple of people that my cohort, my CEO cohort put me in contact with, so we need to get together and kind of talk about some of those things, because I really think that's an opportunity for us all to save some money.
Yeah, I think it was good, the expectation and reality, right, that there were two totally different things once we got together and had this meeting of, you know, how do you order things that are on deal, how do you get the rebates, what do you do with the rebates, what options do we have, you know, what narratives can we silence and focus and consolidate. It was a really good meeting, and so I think we all can benefit once we all kind of get ourselves up to the same level. At O'Keene specifically, we didn't know where to purchase from, so we were buying from whatever vendor, you know, price shopping third, fourth, you know, fifth, even checking Amazon, trying to find the right unit for us, because we couldn't buy a pack of 1,000, it would expire on our shelf. But that's what our, you know, resource was, and so we had to really think outside the box to try to find the right product for us. And so it's been challenging, and so we're really looking forward to leaning in on some of that negotiated pricing that Vizient can provide, and then of course some of the specialists that SSM has on their team to really contribute more than what they've done in the past. So we're all really excited about that.
Yeah, so your materials management is your second biggest spend of your budget. And, you know, most of us in small hospitals have somebody managing it that probably really isn't well-trained.
On the job,
to do
OJT.
it. Yep, so,
Yeah, and so I think there's a lot of opportunities that we're, I think, developing now
yeah.
with the SSM, you know, backing, but also what is most appropriate for our facility and our community. And I think we've lost a lot of messaging between the two, and so I think now we're really starting to focus on how do we prop each other up and benefit mutually. So lots going on.
Good conversation.
Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming up, Mark. All right, next, city council report. Greg?
Okay, let's see, where do I start? Financially speaking, I think we're going into the new fiscal year planning flat. We don't think it's gonna, am I correct? We're planning flat. Anyway, got into a budget retreat the other day, and Homestead was in there. We've got new equipment coming. And still under budget, so that is good. A lot of talk on the swimming pool. The swimming pool is going to be happening pretty quick. In fact, they're having a meeting right now for input on the pool, so possibly we're going to start seeing some drawings and some specs on that. And other than that, you know, the Homestead was in the budget retreat for painting, parking lot. There is some, I won't call it concern, but there's some folks that want to review the contract, and I've never seen it, so I don't know how it works, but I think when that comes due, there's going to be some reviews on that. Other than that, that's about it. To be truthful.
Okay. Any questions for Greg? If not, thank you. The only thing that I'll add, just to kind of rehash, BKD, on that revenue cycle, Candace will get us some information, and we'll have a actual contract that we can look at, and like I said, we may have to have a special board meeting for that, so that we can get started on that sooner than later. And then, and she did mention several things that were kind of coming up, that April 20th to be able to meet with that surgeon group, and then also something that we'll continue to be talking about is this jump. We have to make some type of improvement with Meditech, whether we do this in conjunction with Duncan or we did it outside, and so looking for the most cost-effective way, but also the most effective way to manage our IT department. And so be looking for some information on that, because that's something that we'll be trying to make a decision on here in the near future. So outside of that, there were no other items of new business. We are adjourned.